Yes. Good evening, our partners from abroad who are watching, who will be watching this video. Our partners in India, Indian Ocean, and around the globe. Welcome on the platform of Rising Ocean, where today, exceptionally on a Friday, we are hosting a live debate here after we have had some activities in the context of School of Ecology, where we have our foreign partners who have been present and have been participating along with us. And to co-animate this debate, I have the pleasure to share the platform with my dear colleague and long-serving militant, George Legallant. So, hello, George.
Thank you, Ashvin. Yes, today on our panel we have Andile from South Africa, Uzna from Mozambique, Maria, Isabel from Denmark, and Katerina from Denmark. This, I will try to ask Katerina to present herself.
Hello, my name is Katerina Mileroval. I come from the Czech Republic, but I currently live in Denmark, where I study environmental studies and climate change.
Yes, so we also have Andile. Maybe you can introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Andile Zulu. I come from South Africa, currently residing in Cape Town, where I do some work with an NGO.
Okay. Uzna, your turn.
Hi, hello. My name is Uzna Mulunga. I am from Mozambique, and I'm now working with a climate justice program currently.
Excellent. Isabel, please.
Yeah. Hello, I'm Maria Isabel Senal. I'm originally from the Philippines and now I'm living in Denmark. So I did my graduate school also in Denmark in agroecology, and now I'm trying to branch out from research and trying my hands into a more development and social work and activism.
Thank you, Isabel. Just before we kick off the debate, we go in the details. We'll just talk about the theme. The theme is about young activist perspective about climate crisis. As we all know, we are undergoing we're in a very delicate situation. There's even an urgency. We have multiple crises in the world. We have economic crisis, political crisis. We can say what's going on in UK, in other countries, but mainly the ecological problem, meaning the climate crisis behind the door. We are already facing lots of issues, so we will be talking about it. And I will ask my friend, my dear colleague George, maybe to proceed with his first question.
Yes. As you may know, these people come from organizations, from different organizations in different parts of the world. So I would like to ask them to talk about the organizations, what they do in their organization. Katerina, can you talk about some few words about your organization, what you do, and what are your role in the organization?
So I'm a member of Global Action, which is a movement of activists in Denmark. And we work with different projects, mainly in Global South, to address global injustices and the climate crisis.
Andile?
I work with the Alternative Information and Development Center in Cape Town. We were formed in 1996, 2 years after the end of apartheid and the birth of democracy. And we use our resources and our research to help social movements and labor unions, and we stand for principles of democracy and principles of environmental and social justice.
Excellent. So, Uzna, tell us about your organization, your commitments, and your engagement.
I am with Alternativa. Alternativa is a young association in Mozambique that actually was, Alternativa was born out of the need to have a platform where Mozambicans could talk about situations that we don't see in the media there, because there is a lot of political issues. The government is inside every single television and radio, so Alternativa was created like that. But we are also now doing climate justice, or better, injustice, because of what's happening currently in Mozambique.
And Isabel, please tell us about your organization.
Yeah, so the same with Katerina. I'm with Global Action. It's an organization based in Copenhagen, Denmark, and basically it helps to fight injustice and inequality, particularly focusing on the global south. And also we're taking up issues that are concerning also how Denmark and the rest of EU also fits into the picture.
Okay, thank you. And just before George, maybe we'll launch another question. How is your stay at Mauritius? The food, the beach, you're enjoying?
Yes,
Very
we're-
much.
Apart from being militant and raising and
Yeah.
for the
Very
fight
much. Yeah, the water is
Enjoying.
amazing. Yes, we are enjoying.
and hospitality,
Oh,
Lovely.
Very
perfect. Top
5-star
notch.
Mauritian.
Yes.
Thank you very much. So up to you, my friend George.
Yes, my first question to you is we often hear the word crisis, climate crisis, climate crisis. What do you mean by this question, climate crisis? Who want to answer this question?
I could answer
Yeah.
it perhaps. I think what we mean is that our economic system, our capitalist economic system, because it is always trying to get more wealth and more profits, it uses up resources, it endangers people's livelihoods, and it essentially throws the planet out of balance through the depletion of resources and through the pollution of our water and our air. And we all need the planet to survive and to thrive as human beings. But this system is putting our planet under threat, and so it is a crisis, a global crisis.
Yeah. Isabel, do you share this
Yeah,
definition?
yeah, exactly. It is indeed a crisis because we cannot proceed with the status quo. There is really need an urgent action, and for me, I see it like it's a sinking ship, and people are fighting over in this sinking ship, and not realizing that what we're doing right now is just further aggravating the situation. So it is indeed a climate crisis, and the ship is actually on the process of sinking. And if there's any action, it should have been done like 10, 20 years ago.
So tell me, Katerina, do you agree with your colleagues, or you have other points maybe you want to raise?
Mhm. No, I definitely agree, and I would say it's a crisis because it's very urgent. We have to act rather sooner than later because it's already impacting a lot of people in many parts of the world, and it's only gonna become more severe, and therefore I would call it a crisis, and also because there's still not a global consensus on how to act and who should do what. So it is indeed a crisis that we have to address together.
Yeah, I also
Yes.
agree. And just to add on what Isabel was saying, I feel like there is already a realization from both parts. I mean, like the part, let's say, guilty of the crisis, and the part who is suffering. But as long as the guilty are not affected, we won't have any actions happening. So it's to us to do something right now, because nobody acted before, and I feel like nobody will take action. So it's to us to act. Yeah.
Yeah, if we don't move, nobody will move.
Yes.
Like maybe Rosa Luxembourg said, those who do not move do not notice their chains. If we can say. So I will maybe bounce on an important point. So when you say climate crisis, as you know, the main function for the debate is to so we can reach out people, so we can explain people what's going on. All of you are young militants. You're definitely doing sacrifices, leaving your family, leaving your job, things like that, and to sensitize people across the globe, even in your country. So climate crisis, tell us about the symptoms. How can we say or judge or take cognizance that this is the signs of a climate crisis? Who will, maybe Andile will answer first?
To answer that, I'll use an example from Durban, South Africa, which is my hometown. In the recent years, Durban has seen a lot of very intense flooding. And because so many people in South Africa are poor, they don't have access to good infrastructure and good sewage in their neighborhoods. So when there are floods, they lose their homes, they lose their belongings, and our government doesn't want to talk about the fact that this is a climate change issue. They simply want to talk about the infrastructure, but not about how much coal we are emitting, how much the country is heating up, and how much a coastal city like Durban is in danger of floods and from even perhaps cyclones in the future that affect places like Mauritius and places in the Indian Ocean. So this is just one of the symptoms, is that people are being displaced from their homes, and it adds to the problems of homelessness and poverty in my country.
So it's very dramatical if people are being moved. You see, it's very tough for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Uzna, in Mozambique, what are the symptoms you see, you can see, you can know, you can understand that this mean climatic problem?
Well, for example, before we would hear about cyclones like from decades to decades, right? But now apparently we can't go a year through a year without hearing about a cyclone hitting like the north or the center, or floods in the south. And recently we had the tropical rain Anna, that came in a moment where we were still trying to recover from Kenneth, and
previous one.
it died, you know. So, for example, in Sofala, where the cyclone hit Beira precisely, I'm from Beira, and every time you go there, you have the sense that that city will never be the same, you know. And we already had problems. I mean, Mozambique has already a lot of problems, and no one is stopping to pay attention, as Andile was saying. Like, the government will never address that as a climatic issue, you know, and not even as an issue, because we saw that the whole world gathered to help and etc. But no help got there. The community had to rebuild their houses, bury the dead, clean the water, everything by themselves. And then we have another rain, and then we have another flood. So it is indeed a crisis, and it's happening. And like every year is a struggle.
It's not normally people we have seen it in movies. It's real. It's happening in real life. We can see that.
Exactly.
Will you agree, Isabel? What are the signs in your country? You come from Denmark. Maybe compared to Africa, it's a different temperature. What are the signs?
Well, it's a weird position for me also. Well, I'm living in Denmark, but I'm also coming from the Philippines.
Okay.
Yeah. So, well, I'll talk about Philippines and then
Okay.
Katerina, maybe a little bit also about Denmark. With the Philippines, for example, I mean, it's a tropical country that lies along the equator, and we're very used to typhoons. But for the last years or so, we're experiencing a lot of very strong typhoons, super typhoons. They say more than 220 kilometers per hour kind of typhoons. Probably the most well known is the Typhoon Haiyan, that it was so strong that when they have to follow the proper category for the storms, it's category 7, and when in fact we only have category 5 at the present. So we're experiencing typhoons that we haven't predicted, that the science haven't predicted, and so yeah, how can we prepare for that, for something that we have no idea about? And yeah, and I imagine for Denmark, one of the main issues right now is that there's a lot of issues about the state of immigration, the policy on immigration, and I imagine with climate change, there's going to be a lot of migration around the world, and it's difficult to put into picture that climate change is actually on the background of this, and unfortunately, it's also being narrated into a different kind of
So you mean
story.
there will be a big shift in the demographic?
Yeah, exactly. A change in culture, change in perception. And, yeah.
Hey, Katerina in Denmark, how
I would maybe just add that so Denmark has a lot of coastline, and so it's also facing and will face sea level rise. So I would say that's an important issue. But Denmark is also lucky to actually have a lot of infrastructure and resources to adapt to climate change, while maybe other countries don't have that privilege. And then I would say that in Europe there's also a lot of extreme weather events, also floods and droughts, and which then affect the agricultural system, and also a lot of people suffer from heat strokes, and so there also it has impact on human health as well.
Yeah. Now that we have seen the effect of climate change on a lot of country, is the government is trying to develop consciousness, trying to develop something in school, somewhere in the country with the NGOs about the climate crisis.
Well, speaking in the Mozambican context, right? I would say no. Okay, in front of in front of the cameras and in papers and documents, Mozambique is one of the most perfect countries in the whole world. Like, we sign everything, we agree to everything, and we show to people that, yeah, we're gonna implement this and we want to do this. But when we go to reality, that's not that it's starting to be a conversation now. Now we are starting to talk about it, but from the government we don't see an actual action. There is now.
Do you think your government has other priorities, or they are just closing the eyes on the issue?
I think they have other priorities, and as
But that's
money,
dangerous.
for example.
That is, you mean that climate crisis is not a priority for your government?
It is a priority in terms of with climate changes, the climate issues brought also, how can I say this, a lot of eyes now from the outside, because Mozambique is one of the most vulnerable countries to climate change. So everybody turned their eyes to Mozambique, and Mozambique was like, okay, what teach us what to do. And for example, they try to implement projects that showed to us that it was in order to fix this situation, when in reality it opened a door for industries to come to the country, saying that they had a green program attached to their activities, right? And okay, green programs means money to the government, so it's okay. You can come with your industry and whatever. For example, we have the situation that happened again in Sofala, in a community called Nyambita, where this big company, this big industry came, and they went to the population and they asked the population to give their land, and they said, okay, you guys from now on plant trees because of the environment, and the world needs trees. Let's do this green projects and etc. And the population actually gave the land for them to plant the trees. And also they said, we're gonna pay you per tree, you will receive a certain amount. The only thing you have to do is to make sure that tree stays there. It was a perfect, everybody was like, okay, jackpot. I put the tree, I receive money. They didn't receive money. The trees are still there. They don't have no space now to plant for their own livelihood. How do we say it? Livelihood. The trees are there. They all have the same trees. If it's mango, everybody has mango. If it's, Envirotrade left already, but the trees are still there. And now we came to find out that those trees is for carbon collection
Okay.
to be sold in the
Yeah.
international market, and that population didn't even know what carbon was. When we went there, they were like, what is carbon? It's something that you can touch and whatever.
Tangible, maybe they were thinking.
No, and if you cut it, you can suffer, like they come back just to, make you accountable of it, but they are no longer there. So this is one of the things that's happening now. The government opened this door for these false solutions into climate changes, and it's another problem.
So Andile, do you agree that planting trees, it's okay, it's good, we need to replace what's being cut off, but don't you think that government policies giving license for buildings everywhere, and normally is we know what are the causes. So yes.
Can you clarify the question, sorry?
Yes. So do you believe that it's not planting trees won't solve the problem?
Oh, no. The solutions have to be a lot more drastic than that, because the problem is what people in politics refer to as systemic. It is a problem with the system. And so if you want to solve a problem with the system, you have to adjust and change the way that system works. You can tinker it and adjust it in slight ways, but unless you go to the very roots of the system itself, you are unlikely to solve the problem. So yes, people must grow trees. We must be conscious of how we, throw away our waste. We must be conscious of how we treat animals. But individuals are not going to solve a problem with a system. And so we must look at how can we begin to change this system. It doesn't have to happen suddenly. It is, revolution and radical reform is a gradual process. But unfortunately, a lot of government responses, because they have political interests in this capitalist system, they don't want to change it. So we must essentially force them to do it through our mobilization, through dissent, through our rebellion, and so on.
Yeah, Isabel.
Yeah.
How you in Philippines? How consciousness is raised?
Yeah, it's people are very much aware of climate change. It's very much they're experiencing it through typhoons, to what's happening in their coasts, and so in terms of believing that climate change, they know that it's there, but I think they are not given the proper information.
When you say they,
the people.
the people, yeah?
I mean, the people. There was a survey, like more than 95% acknowledged that they have experienced the effects of climate change, and that it is already here. But I think the response or the understanding on how to react on it is lacking. There's a very superficial understanding of what climate change is, and then it's very much dependent. The response from the government is very much on infrastructure, build dams, or because of the eroding to respond to the coast, or to the what you call that. When there's surges, for example, storm surges.
It's quick fix solutions.
Yeah, exactly. Quick fix solutions. When in fact, a lot of people don't realize that it's a structural problem. And unfortunately, there's a lot of, I guess, colonial mentality still in it, that with the people still see themselves as victims, recipient of AIDS. That they believe that they cannot be part of the conversation of the solution for structural change. And I think that's something that has to be addressed and something that has to be acknowledged.
So thank you, Isabel. Katerina, I want to ask you about how do you think your organization is trying to do its best? You are giving your best. just like our young fellows, friends. So, what do you think must be done globally? We can do it in our part, in our somewhere in the world, but what should be done so that we can merge all the movements, so that people are more aware and we can take drastic action, but not only plant trees like we just discussed with Andile, but contest the main issue, the political, the policies, what's going on, all the harm that is being caused, industrialization, overproduction, things like that, how we manage plastics. As you know, single-use plastic is always contested around the world, but it's still going on, and big, as we said, the capitalist system is continue to making a profit a priority compared to nature, and nature is being harmed like this. So what do you think must be done globally so that we can connect all the movements to bring that paradigm shift and to be more efficient in the fight against climate crisis?
I think the most maybe important and also obvious is that there are huge inequalities between global north and global south.
Yes.
And that's something that we all need to acknowledge. I mean, especially people in global north need to be more aware of it, and we need to what for example our organization is trying to do is to support like local movements, for example, like the one in Mauritius, CARES, to mobilize people, to raise awareness, educate people, to actually address the local issues to their governments and make their governments stable, so that they can face the sort of more powerful actors from global north, and also powerful actors in global south, like private industries or individuals who have accumulated wealth that should be redistributed to the people. So I think that it's important to mobilize people and to address the issues locally and kind of build strength within people and communities.
Yes, I would like to ask Andile questions, because Andile and Uzna, about the extractivists, because South Africa and Mozambique are two countries having a lot of extraction from the earth, fossil energy, raw material. So how do you deal with this? Because we all know that fossil energy is something very polluted. So what's happening in South Africa, and what is going on with this kind of politics, extracting materials from earth?
It's a very big issue in South Africa because our economy is built on what they call the minerals energy complex. So when we were colonized and they discovered gold and platinum in Johannesburg, in what we call Bloemfontein in the Free State, these provinces, they use these minerals to build the country, to build factories, railroads, and so on. And they used cheap African and Asian migrant labor. And then apartheid came, the system of racial discrimination, and it made it even worse. But unfortunately, when the African National Congress came into power in 1994, they abandoned their socialist principles, essentially, and they adopted the principles of capitalism, and they continued with their extractivism. And so the economy of South Africa is based on selling minerals overseas and ensuring that the country is safe for investment and for business to continue to plunder. But there is resistance. For example, there is the Amadiba Crisis Committee, which is a collection of rural women and rural people in the in the wild coast of South Africa, who are fighting Shell, the transnational oiling corporation, and they have won a court's victory this year, stopping Shell from trying to do seismic blasting on our coast because it was going to damage the environment, it was going to kill the local fish population, and it was going to degrade the land of our ancestors. So there are some victories. There are people in grassroots movements who are speaking up, who are saying we have the right to say no. If you want to develop on our land, you must ask us for consent first. But the problem is, how do we then go from small grassroots movements into mass politics, where we can not only win in court, but we can win on the streets, we can win in the farms, and we can win in people's neighborhoods. So the AIDC, my organization, is trying to work with social movements of the working class, of rural people, of women, of the LGBT, to try and build a mass politics that can resist the extraction of transnational corporations.
Yeah. Uzna, the activist, extractivist politics in Mozambique,
Yeah, so one thing that I really actually admire about South Africa is how they are more organized and working around that. In Mozambique, we know what's happening, charcoal for decades now, the Chinese over the sea, taking everything they can, wood, oil, gas, everything is going out, right? And the only thing that we see being said on television and whatever is that this is a rich country and eventually everybody's going to be rich, right? But there is nothing happening and people are being moved, people are getting sick, people are dying in the process of these extractions and everything. But we don't really see a mobilization in this level that we see in other countries of stopping, because it's really connected to the government, actually. The government has their hands in every single industry that is there extracting. So what we have is, how do you say, grassroots associations working directly with the communities to make sure that the basic is there. If this population is being moved, is there hospital, is there, just basic stuff, but not in a level of trying to stop what we clearly see is dangerous and is affecting us. That we still have a far way to go. Long way to go.
Yes, thank you, George. Just to maybe to add another input into the debate, just to relate the situation here in Mauritius, in line with the COP26, I think we had last time, our dear Prime Minister, if I can say like that, undertook to go green, things like that, and to go towards green energy, clean energy, things like that, so that we can come out from fossil energy and polluting the atmosphere. But some weeks after, they were trying to pass a bill, the petroleum bill here in Mauritius, so to extract fossil fuel in our lagoons. So it's quite, what do you think about it, my dear
yes,
friend?
because here in Mauritius, our government are lying because they say that we are going to shift from fossil energy to in a clean energy, all this.
Solar
But
energy.
unfortunately, we are making electricity with charcoal coming from South Africa, where the miners getting dead with mining the charcoal. So I think that all these are they tell lies. They go to they make big speech to the peoples of United Nations everywhere, but unfortunately here there's nothing really done to it's the same thing as Mozambique. The government has a way of saying some things with they themselves they don't believe. So this is how
They lie, they all lie.
So you see, you are not the only one suffering in the world. Mauritius may seem to be like we say heaven on earth with warm beaches, and maybe one point we wish to raise, it's about rising oceans. La montée des eaux, on appelle ça en français. So what do you think about it? Maybe Isabel?
Yeah, you mean the rising ocean in terms of climate change?
In terms of
Sea
climate
level
change, we have
rise.
oceans.
Sea level, yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's unfortunate because it's especially I think for Mauritius and it's the same with Philippines. We have more than 7,000 islands, and easily a large part of the landmass and a large part of the population will easily be displaced, and there's going to be a lot of like cultural and social changes that are going to accompany it, besides from like lost economic structure that has been put in place, like try to put in place like 20-30 years, and then suddenly within 5 years or so all that infrastructure is going to be lost. So
Yeah.
yes, it is indeed a shame, and yeah, something to be really alarmed about.
Yeah, even in Moz, I feel like cities like Beira are soon to disappear. Beira,
Yeah.
Pemba, all the coastal area, because Beira is already under, how do we say, the sea level?
Yeah.
Yeah, a few more years and it will, the ocean will take it. Yeah, because it's rising gradually and it's
Yes.
happening. Yeah.
Maybe a last question. We have seen all these. So what must be done? Maybe what must be done? What next? What must be done?
To address the issue of climate crisis, what more we should do?
I think just from looking at the South African situation and the situation in Mauritius, I think, yes, there must be policies to decrease carbon emissions. There must be policies to move to renewable energy. But what is absolutely important is to build working class power. You cannot challenge capitalism if you do not build working class power, because you can advocate for these policies and for these reforms, but the people who run our system, they own the world. They own lawyers, they own the media, they own some of our universities, you know? So in order to have leverage against them, workers must be able to unite and must be able to suspend their labor. They must be able to dissent and rebel, and there is strength in numbers. They can't kill us all. So working class power must be built if we're going to escape the ecological crisis, I think.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Andile. Uzna, what must be done?
Yeah, just to add on what Andile was saying, this is why I also think that popular education plays a big role, because speaking about Mozambique as a country, if we don't know what we will eat tomorrow, it's hard to understand what climate change is. We just know that we don't have food, right? So this process of talking to people, raise awareness, I feel like it culminates with empowering the working class so that we can fight a bigger system.
Isabel?
Yeah, and also to add, empowering the working class and also empowering the youth. They are the next generation who's gonna make these policies, and yeah, these people who has benefited to the system, they're gonna be gone. They had their fun, and now it's the youth that's gonna suffer for that, and the next generation after that. So if and the youth has the power of social media, of connecting to a larger community other than their immediate family, immediate friends, and that is something powerful, and that is something that has to be tapped on. So, and there's hope. The youth are smart and powerful and intelligent, and they're ready to fight.
Katerina?
Yeah,
What
but
must be done?
besides all this, just I would say more activism, more like united people and cooperation around the world, because I also know a lot of people who are sort of aware of the crisis, but they're not sure what exactly to do, and they have the power to do something. So it's just about more like talking to each other and yeah, raising awareness and wanting to do something together.
Yes, thank you, George. So thank you very much, everybody. I think we have had a very fruitful debate, a very productive debate, and I will conclude with a very important point that George shared with us earlier. He believes in peer. What is peer? Peer is trying to be pedagogical, trying to be informative, and trying to be rebel. So I think this debate will maybe will touch everybody, our dear Facebookers globally around the world, so that we can be more aware about the climate crisis issue. And hopefully all our panelists who are present here, Katerina, Andile, Uzna and Isabel, alongside my dear colleague George, we have helped to contribute to the debate so that we can be more aware about climate crisis and to be and ready and more rebel and just not to accept what is going on, and so that we can leave the challenge altogether.
We wish to thank also all the technical team for the good work, and see you next time.
See you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Take
Thank
care.
you. Hey.